So, we're going to talk about one of the biggest paradoxes in the modern world. It's a story about an incredible piece of technology, a huge symbol of national pride, but it's also a story of ghost trains, empty stations, and a debt so big it's hard to wrap your head around. It's wild. Let's get into it.
On the surface, the question seems pretty straightforward. China went out and built the biggest, fastest, most advanced high-speed rail network on the entire planet. So why are these brand new, cutting-edge trains zipping across the country with almost nobody on board? What is really going on here?
Okay, but before we dive into the problems, you've got to understand just what an incredible achievement this thing is. I mean, looking at it from one angle, China's high-speed rail, or HSR, is a total, undisputed success. It's a genuine transportation miracle that has completely changed the country. And you know, for millions and millions of people, that's exactly what it is. If you talk to passengers, they rave about it. It's a world-class experience, the trains are incredibly reliable, and they connect hundreds of cities with this kind of futuristic efficiency. It's completely changed how people think about travel in China. And the scale of it, well, it's just mind-boggling. By 2025, the network will be about 50,000 kilometers long. Now, to put that into perspective for you, that is more than 2/3 of all the high-speed rail on Earth. And they built it all in less than 20 years. Just unbelievable. And look, it's not just big, it's fast. Like, seriously fast. There's a whole new generation of these bullet trains hitting speeds of 400 kilometers per hour. That's fast enough to get you from Beijing to Shanghai, which is kind of like going from New York to Chicago, in just 3 hours. It's an absolute marvel of engineering. But this incredible story has a flip side. And yeah, it is a very, very expensive flip side. Because hiding behind all the sleek trains and the shiny new stations is a financial reality that is just impossible to ignore. So get this, by the end of 2024, the company that runs the whole system, the China State Railway Group, was staring down a debt of 6.2 trillion yuan. That's more than 850 billion US dollars. That is an absolutely astronomical number. It just makes you wonder, right? Where did all that cash go? And why isn't it being paid back? And this chart right here, it pretty much tells the whole story. The blue bars, that's the crazy growth of the rail network itself. And that orange bar, that's the growth in passengers. You can see it clear as day. The pace of construction completely blew past the number of people actually using the trains. They built it, but the riders, they just haven't come. So what's the result of all this? Well, the vast majority of this massive network is hemorrhaging money. We're talking 80 to 85% of it is unprofitable. That's almost 40,000 kilometers of track that don't even make enough money to cover their own running costs, never mind paying back the loans it took to build them. This isn't just a few bad routes, it's baked into the entire system. And look, don't just take my word for it. This isn't some outside criticism. That quote comes from a top academic at China's own state-run Academy of Sciences. He's basically saying this whole thing was a massive miscalculation that ignored common sense, and now it's coming back to haunt the country's finances. Okay, so let's zoom in a bit. Let's get away from the huge numbers and see what this actually looks like on the ground for the people who are, supposed to be riding these trains. You want to know a huge part of the problem? It's where they built the stations. I mean, just look at these. The station for the city of Tongren is over an hour away by taxi. The one for Xiaogan is nearly 100 kilometers from the city center. To get to the Zuni station, it can take you up to 3 hours. They're not convenient hubs. They're ghost stations built in the middle of nowhere. It's so bad that dozens have just been shut down or left to rot. And then, of course, there's the cost. For millions of people, especially migrant workers, it's just a simple math problem. A high-speed ticket from Zhengzhou to Wuhan will set you back 270 yuan. The slower, older train, just 80 yuan. That price difference is literally a day or two's salary for many of these workers. So what do? You take the cheaper train. And that leaves those shiny, fast trains with rows and rows of empty seats. Okay, but here's where the story takes a massive turn. What if this whole financial disaster wasn't a mistake at all? What if the empty seats, the crazy debt, the stations in the middle of nowhere, what if that was all part of the plan? What if making a profit was never, ever the point? And that is the big question, right? The one that changes everything. Because if you stop looking at this thing as a business that's failing and you start looking at it as a tool for something else, well, all those illogical decisions start to make a very different kind of sense. So what were the real goals? Well, first off, All that construction created a huge artificial demand for steel and concrete, which helped keep China's massive state-owned industries from collapsing. Second, those lines going way out to remote regions like Xinjiang, they were never about tourism. They are strategic tools for political and military control. They can move troops or police in a flash. And finally, the network is a powerful way to promote national unity, physically connecting the whole country to the center of power and culture. So yeah, what looks like a bug, it was actually the main feature all along. Okay, let's zoom back out for the big picture here, because really, this whole ghost train story, it's a story about China's entire economic model and the cracks that are starting to show. It all boils down to this classic economic idea, diminishing returns. It's like, think about pizza. That first slice? Oh, it's amazing, life-changing. The 10th slice? Yeah, not so much. The first dollar you invest in something gives you a huge bang for your buck, but the millionth dollar gives you way, way less. And that's exactly where China is right now. After decades of building like crazy, just throwing more money at infrastructure doesn't give them the same economic kick it once did. Building that first high-speed line between two megacities like Beijing and Shanghai? Transformative. Building the 10th line to a smaller city that already has a railway? The return just isn't there. And this HSR network is probably the biggest, most expensive example of diminishing returns in action anywhere in the world. And that brings us right back to the central problem, the big final question. China has built a real way for the future, for a time when the country is richer and more developed. But the bills are due today. They've built this world-class network that might one day be full, but the question is, can they actually afford to wait? And that's the massive challenge they're facing right now.